Most traders don't fail because they're not smart enough. They fail because they go into battle completely underestimating how long the bad times can last, and they do it without any real armor. So today, we're going to unpack a guide that's engineered not for making a quick buck, but for one thing and one thing only: survival. So let's just ask the question, right? Let's get right to it. Forget all the talk about discipline and strategy for a second. Why do so many trading accounts just go to zero? Well, the answer isn't a bad strategy. It's what happens to the human brain when it's under the relentless pressure of financial risk. Okay, so let's dive into our source material for today. It's this manual that takes a totally different angle on trading. It doesn't start with a fancy new strategy. Nope. It starts with a diagnosis. It actually gives a name to that awful psychological state that, let's be honest, most struggling traders have felt deep in their bones but just never had the words for. And that brings us to the first huge concept. This has nothing to do with your charts or your indicators. This is all about your mental setup. We're talking about a very specific kind of psychological fracture that happens when you're just buckling under the immense weight of financial stress. It's called phimepsy. And what's so powerful about this definition is that it's not about being weak. It's a predictable state. It's what happens when financial losses, mental exhausting, and psychological stress all start to bleed into one another. And the scariest part? Your decisions, your actual behavior, they get twisted, but it happens so slowly, so quietly, you might not even notice it's happening at all. So this is probably the most important takeaway right here. You have to remove this self-blame. Phimsy isn't some character flaw. It's not a lack of discipline. Think of it like the check engine light on your car's dashboard. It's just a signal, a clear warning that says, hey, your emotional gas tank is empty. It's time to let a rigid, pre-planned structure take the wheel. Now, PhimCTSY gets triggered by one single haunting question. It's a question that every single trader faces during a drawdown, and it's the one question that most trading books are completely, totally silent on. And this is it. This is the one that keeps you up at night, right? You're following your rules, you're doing everything by the book, but the losses just keep coming. And you start to wonder, is this just normal? Or is my entire system broken? The fact that this question is almost never answered is frankly kind of nuts. But here we finally get a real mathematical answer. Look at this. A losing streak of 5 to 10 trades, that's not just possible, it's virtually guaranteed with a 96% chance of happening. It isn't bad luck, it's just the price of admission. It's just math. Even a streak of 20 losses in a row isn't proof that your edge is gone. When you look at these cold, hard numbers, the whole experience shifts from being a personal failure to just being a predictable statistical event. Okay, so if we know for a fact that these brutal losing streaks are a mathematical certainty, how in the world do you build a system that can actually withstand them? Well, let's get to the solution. And it's not a new strategy. It's a complete operating system designed from the ground up to respect uncertainty. It's called USRAR. It stands for Universal Symmetric Risk, Asymmetric Returns. And really, the whole secret is right there in the name. Symmetric risk just means you make your risk, your potential loss, fixed and predictable every single time. And asymmetric returns means you let your winners be as big as they can possibly be. And man, when you put it side by side with how most people trade, it is night and day. See, typical trading is obsessed with a high win rate, but it allows for these random, huge, catastrophic losses while capping the winners out of fear. USRTAM flips that whole thing on its head. It focuses purely on survivability by fixing the loss amount and just letting the profitable trades run. One is fragile, the other is structurally sound. The best analogy for this comes from engineering. It's like a check valve in a pipe. A check valve lets water flow forward, but it will slam shut if the water ever tries to flow backward. Well, USAR does that exact same thing for your money. It structurally blocks the backward flow of those huge account-killing losses while keeping the pipeline wide open for profits to flow forward. Okay, so the philosophy is awesome, but let's get practical. How do you turn this cool idea into an actual shield that defends not just your account, but your sanity? It's called the 30-bullet shield, and it's beautifully simple. First thing you do is define your happy loss. That's just an amount of money you can lose on one trade without it ruining your day or making you do something stupid on the next one. That amount, that's one bullet. Your system then gives you a shield or a magazine loaded with 30 of these bullets. And this gets to a really critical point. This 30-bullet shield isn't supposed to make you invincible. That's not the goal. It's designed specifically to make sure you can outlast those statistically probable losing streaks we looked at earlier. You're not trying to survive an infinite hurricane. You're just trying to survive long enough for the sun to come out again. So, what happens when you put all these pieces together? When you combine the USRA operating system with the 30-bullet shield? Well, the mathematical results from independent testing are, well, they're pretty. And this picture shows you exactly what that looks like. You're seeing thousands of different simulated trading careers. And yeah, of course there are drawdowns. Look at that red line at the bottom. But the key is that the structure itself prevents a total catastrophic failure. None of them hit zero. Over time, the positive edge takes over. The system is engineered to bend, but it's not engineered to break.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. This entire system, this whole philosophy, it isn't really about protecting your money. It's safety equipment. It's designed to protect the human being who has to take the losses. It protects the person first, because only a person who's protected can stay in the game long enough to actually win.